All right, you ready for this?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Erin Marvin Show. This is episode 10, and I would like to welcome my very special guest today. This is Simon Redstone. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I will be honest, before I started this podcast, and this I'm not even making this up. When I thought the idea to start a podcast, I started writing down people that I thought would be guests, and you actually were on my list of people. Yeah, because when we met like a year ago, we met, and right away we just started. I feel like we just had a connection, like we were
just on another vibe.
Yeah, we were on another vibe, so that was good. But I haven't really seen you since then, so it's good that you're here and good to sit down. So you're a filmmaker. Is that what? I'll give you a chance to answer this. What do you if somebody met you, what would you describe yourself as?
Yeah, dude, I am a filmmaker. I don't like using that term, mainly because I feel like I don't really deserve to be a real filmmaker, you know? Like a lot of people, we were kind of talking earlier, there's like this ego-sensed persona, especially nowadays with social media influencing and all this hype, that you really want these titles, but these titles are earned, not given. And I'm just, to be honest, I'm a working filmmaker. I'm working to become a solid filmmaker. But do I think I'm a filmmaker? Yeah, but you could say that. Yeah, I'm a filmmaker, but
so do you think it's because I can call myself a podcaster. I have 10 episodes, but even that I'm just like, am I really? Do you have some sort of imposter syndrome about it?
Dude, big time. Yeah, dude, I'm really hard on myself, especially with titles or accomplishments, things like that. I kind of struggle with, but it's more just a personal thing, but I am a filmmaker, and I think it's important to believe in yourself and believe in that title, but be cautious of, and be aware that it's not supposed to be taken lightly. And I think it's you got to respect it, and with respect, it just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when did you start making films, or what's your earliest memory of wanting to use a camera to tell stories?
Well, I'll say I'm an up and coming filmmaker.
Okay.
Being true and honest.
Yeah. No.
But okay, so dude, I grew up, credit to my mom, grew up watching films from a very young age, and I'm not talking Disney Plus, not Disney, not even Disney Plus, this Disney Channel back in the day with cable, or any kid movies. Obviously I watched them, but my mom would always turn on these life movies, I would call them, and they were some deep, seriously captivating life stories. I don't know if you've seen Who's Eating Gilbert's Grape, Powder, Mask, Forrest Gump, from a young age, 6, 7 years old, and a lot of time I wouldn't fully understand the subject matter, but my earliest memories are Edward Scissorhands, these really captivating characters and life stories from a very young age. And I think she was probably doing something that I didn't even understand until now. But I'm really grateful because that just has translated into me making films. But I never planned on being a filmmaker. Never. I went to college for pre-med. And the reason why I even went to college, because I was playing soccer in college. But I come from a family of doctors on both sides, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do that. And obviously it didn't work out that way, but I was never planning, I was never 10 years old, I'm going to be a filmmaker, I'm going to be a director. But given, how I grew up and all these places I lived and the situations that I found myself in, it kind of just makes more and more sense as I look back in my life and figure this is definitely for me.
Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of stumbled into it almost, like
Yeah.
like just your life. You just went through life and the influence that movies had on your life. Eventually, you're just like wake up one day and like, I'm an up and coming filmmaker. Like,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I want to know a little bit more about your family. Like you say you're like from a family of doctors. It looks like your mom introduced you to some more, I don't know what the word you said, like
I used to call them life movies. Yeah, like my mom. I'd be like, Mom, like, turn this life movie off. I'm on SpongeBob.
That's what you call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what you said, you like part of your life you grew up in England. What's kind of your story there?
I mean, if we want to get into it, we'll get into it. But
if you want to get into it,
oh yeah, it's just kind of long. But from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Is that where you were born?
Yeah, that's where I was born. My mom's side is from there. And we grew up in Sausalito. We moved to Sausalito.
Where's that?
California.
Okay.
Kind of Bay Area. Kind of like San Francisco, kind of, you know. But grew up there for a bit, and then we moved back to Utah for a little. And then that's when my sister was born, and when she was a baby, we moved to England and moved back. Eventually ended up in New York. And then here, and you know, people always think, "Oh, is your dad military?" No, my dad's a chiropractor, and he was a professor for a long time in chiropractic universities and all that. So he's teaching overseas. He was teaching in New York. Here, he's working for Fairview in the orthopedic department. So, but all these moves, you know, from a very young age, I was constantly seeing different groups of individuals, different groups of community, society, and how they intertwine, you know, depending on the location and the influences different locations have, you know, on people, and being able to, you know, make friends and be able to fit into a group and kind of like, you know, be in that world from like really early on. My whole life has kind of been like that, getting to this point in high school when I moved here. But so like that, just having all those experiences and all those different inputs and of life and being able to move so much and the challenges that come with moving, logistically, family, you know, socially, it's just always like boom, boom, boom for me. And some people be like, "Oh, isn't that so hard?" Blah, blah. Like, yeah, but at the same, like I'll never trade that. Never. Cause, yeah, you know. And then my mom's side, we were talking about doctors, and my grandpa's a veterinarian. So when we were in Utah, like I grew up in a veterinary clinic, helping my grandpa, do the most absurd thing. Like, dude, like looking back, like definitely like should have not been like helping him like with what I was doing, you know, and like should not be like doing some of the things I was doing. My grandma was a nurse practitioner, you know, my uncle was a nurse anesthetist. So like my great grandma was a big like psychologist, psychiatrist, and yeah, so it just, you know, a bunch of kind of science and health backgrounds.
That makes sense, dude, because you're talking about how you had to constantly adapt to every new place that you moved in. That makes a lot of sense. Knowing you, the little bit that I do know you, like you're so, I feel like just adaptable to any situation, and I can definitely see that in your films that you make, especially this last one. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like, we know you're an up and coming filmmaker, but what was like the last project that you just got done working on? Because when I met you, so the film that I'm referring to is Sister Diane, and when I first met you, I don't believe that you started that project yet, or you were in the pre-planning phase of that. I don't think you had started shooting yet. So how did that process go? And you talked about different like different stories and like people from different walks of life, kind of life movies. I think this film that you just made is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think about that until now, like talking about those life movies and talking about kind of like my upbringing and translates that film I just did. I didn't, honestly, hasn't really clicks with me because I probably have never had time to reflect like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But anyways, yeah. So Sister Diane, here's a story about an elderly nun who breaks the confines of her everyday life to pursue her dream of doing ballet. Something she's never really been able to do, given her age, given her connotation. And in the story, she's an Asian elderly nun, and it's kind of like breaking stereotypes. Because when you think of a nun, you think of an old white lady, a cat lady or something, innocent. Like, but I really wanted to, from the start, like break a stereotype immediately. And ballet, you always think another stereotype is like these really white, flexible, very elegant women, which some are, but that's not ballet as a whole. You have to look a certain way to fit in or do ballet. So those are two things that I knew I wanted to do, is kind of break the stereotype. And really with storytelling and filmmaking, like how can I use storytelling as a metaphor for life, but find the most unique way and unique stories and captivating stories as possible, and not and don't settle until you found that. But yeah, man, like that film, I remember talking to you about it, and at that point in time, like I had no idea if I was gonna pull it off, financially, logistically, but I was determined, and I remember like you were very open and hearing my ideas, and it's sometimes a lot of pressure, people in my this up and coming kind of phase, to really like talk about projects and whatnot. But you're very open. I think that's another thing. We're just chatting about it. But yeah, dude, it was a great experience. It's opened, a lot of doors so far, and being able to give, not only the actors opportunities and crew members, but these dancers, and a whole different platform other than the stage, and to really show their skills. And it was so awesome having them on set. And honestly, like when it came to the dancing stuff, I'm not a dancer. Like you guys figure it out. It was so cool to sit back and literally like watch them work together as a team, as a group, to like have their vision come to life. Like, I give them pointers, like we should do this or story wise, but to see them take the reins and do it, like I just like, you guys figure it out. And that was really cool to kind of give them that power,
Yeah, so like I'm thinking about myself and my podcast and how I, like when we were sitting here talking, like I was setting up everything and trying to make sure everything was good. So it's like Sister Diane is your project. How does it feel when, it's your project, but coming to terms with the fact that there's some stuff about it you might not know, like letting the dancers kind of do their own thing? And how does it feel giving up some of that like creative control, maybe, because it's not your expertise?
Yeah, dude, like that's kind of like how I roll. I think that kind of separates me from other filmmakers or directors out there. Dude, there's so many like, oh, where's my director's seat? Like I gotta sit down, like you guys listen to everything I say, blah blah blah. Like, dude, you gotta let these actors and these different aspects, crew members, like they gotta be able to tell that story. Like, yeah, you're directing it, but you have to give them that ability to be in that story, be the character, be the dancers, because at the end of the day, they're in front of the camera, they're telling the story in that moment. And I think that's one way that I really like to kind of create my community, create my teams, give them that ability and that freedom, and not feel so pressured by me. Like, that's a me problem then. You know what I mean? If someone is pressured to do a certain thing because they think I'll like it, that's not what I'm supposed to do. And I think, coaching, soccer, or I grew up doing that in college, I want you to make the decision based off of the situation in front of you, based off the story, based off of the character and what they're telling you to do. It's not me, if you're doing it to impress me or just to, make sure that I like it, no. You know what I mean? I'm one person, but I'm not making this film, making a story for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing it for, to change people's lives, to give them different as input into the world, and where empathy and reason leads to purpose and change. That's kind of like my motto for my production company. So yeah,
empathy and reason leads to purpose and change.
Yeah, where empathy and reason leads to purpose and change. Yeah. So,
Okay.
you know, these stories derive empathy, and you know, you can see, you know, a reason why these characters did what they did, and their story, and what happens, and hopefully that'll create some change in others, and you know, a different outlook in life, and to make you seem like we're not all alone. You know, we're not all that different. While the story might be different, and the setting and the characters, it resonates with all of us.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself relating to Sister Diane in that film, as far as, you know, feeling like you know, life might push you down this one path, and coming to that realization that, you know, having the courage to kind of stand up for yourself and do what's going to make you happy instead of trying to please other people, or, you know, try to keep yourself in this little mold that people have made for you, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your production company? You're rocking the Red Cow production
shirt?
shirt
today. Yeah, it's a Red Cow production, and I don't know, dude. For me, like, I really want my films to kind of fit, you know, not just a look or not just a story, but what does it mean outside of just that? Because we always see, you know, okay, you know, blah blah productions, you know, every production company, and they always make, you know, everyone has a production company more or less, but what do they do outside of just making the content? For me, you know, my goal has always been, how can I create a team, a community? I'm not just film, you know, lovers and, you know, who like to watch movies, but give people opportunities to really contribute and grow in a craft, or, you know, in any, you know, any sense of the film, from representation to crafts to positions on crews to actors to people who watch the film. Like, I want this to be not just one singular entity of, you know, something on YouTube. It's a lot more deeper than that, and it's not more. There's a mission, and there's a culture, and there's standards behind it. You know.
Yeah. It seemed like when I watched the film, I felt like the people that were involved with the movie really enjoyed being a part of that movie. I could just kind of tell that on the screen. Was it a good? Did it seem like everybody was getting along great? Everybody having fun?
Oh yeah, dude. Like, crew wise, man, I've been able to meet some really cool people, and I might create some enemies here, but dude, I think collectively, like, the film community, and it's not just here, it's anywhere. It's very cliquey. It's very ego filled. Like, very, like, you know, like drama kids in high school. Like, it's like the drama kids in high school, you know, and it just is like so annoying sometimes. And I don't really fit in with, like, movie crowds, you know, like the film community. I don't, in any place. But to be able to kind of pick individuals that have really stood out, and they do not conform in who they are is who they are, and they're so true to themselves, and those are the people that I want on my projects. And I've been so grateful to, like, meet some awesome individuals that really, like, just enhance the team, the core of the crew, and that just translates to the end product. And you know, when you see that in the moment, and you see it on screen, that presence and how the chemistry works with different individuals, and good people make good, you know, good stuff regardless. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I love meeting people and bringing them on that have the same, you know, think the same way, their values, and, you know, how they approach mission, you know, projects, anything. It's awesome. It's awesome.
So with your last film, we were kind of talking about the creative process and learning new things or like new ways you want to do stuff, what did this last project teach you that you're going to use moving forward in your future projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think, everyone's always in a rush to, get, make the film and put it on screen for people to watch it. That's obviously, that's filmmaking. I think what people really need to understand is you need to be able to have such a strong script, a story, a screenplay. I think that the story is the most important. And, nowadays it's so easy to film and edit. Anyone can do it. And that's kind of, I think, why right now it's so saturated with, the stories are so saturated. The film communities are just draining energy wise, and it's so ego filled, and it's so, like people pleasing. And I think at the end of the day, you have to be a mature writer. You have to be a mature storyteller to really, earn making a film. And people don't understand that. Like they think, oh, I can make a film. Yeah, you can, but if you don't earn it and you don't put in the time to really make sure your story is 110%, it's not worth it. It's not supposed to be easy. Like being a filmmaker is not easy. It's a lot of battle with internally, trying to figure out what the hell you're gonna write, what deserves to be told. I think people are in such a rush. So really, like, how can I keep learning? How can I get better before my next film? Like, it's like every project I do, it's like a Simon Redstone film. It needs to be better. Like the bar needs to be met every time and over and exceed it. You have to always be pushing the bar, pushing the envelope at every single project. Okay, and like that, the only way you do that is by learning, by taking the things you need to do, the preparation, watching the old films, understanding the story, story arc and the elements of storytelling and the hero's journey, and it's not easy, and it's not supposed to be. And I think people don't really understand that.
It's a breath of fresh air to watch something like your film, because like we were talking about earlier, there's so much noise out there. There's so much, I don't know if people realize this, but if you're using social media every day, basically all you're doing is watching videos. Like everything is a video, but it's all these short little clips. So what I mean by a breath of fresh air, it's nice to actually take a step back, put the phone down, and just watch one story for 30 minutes. And even I struggle with that, to like watch a full movie. I'm so, just people pumping out content, but it's nice to watch something that's like, wow, somebody took the time and this is very well thought out, and this is a unique story that you're not going to see anywhere else.
I really appreciate you saying that, because that is, what I'm trying to do. And I think, dude, like, film festivals, I mean, that they're obviously very good because you can be able to it's a way to have your films be watched. But, dude, I got a problem with film festivals where they're so curated to fit a certain narrative, a certain time length, especially short films. Like, you want your film to be on film festivals, it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I'm not saying you can't tell a great story within that time. I'm not saying you need a 3-hour epic. But I'm not gonna like settle for less and settle to have my film in a film festival just to make me look good. I'm trying to tell a story. I'm gonna tell it my way, and I'm not gonna settle for the film festivals just for someone to say, oh, yes or no. Like, who are you? You know what I mean? I'm sorry. Like, and I think that's a huge, like, it almost is going to take away from people's ability to make films and learn from storytelling and learn, okay, this might have been too long, this scene, or this film might have been too long, but at least I'm doing it and I'm learning the right way. I'm not going to make a film in the hopes of getting into a certain film festival because I want to get into a certain film festival. Like, I'm trying to make a community. I'm trying to make people come together and have an experience and watch a film and go and leave, you know, being impacted. And I think that's way more important than saying I got in ABC film festivals.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're not burning too many like bridges or anything in this episode.
Nah, but let them know.
No, it makes sense though. Like, it sounds like you really just want to do it from the artistic standpoint. Like, this is your art and this is how you want to make it. You want to include, you know, everybody and make everybody else who's a part of it feel like they're a part of it. But at the end of the day, you're not trying to fit some mold like we were talking about before with like me relating to sister Diane. Like, she wasn't trying to fit a certain mold. So I applaud you for
I appreciate
standing your ground and doing what you feel is right.
Yeah, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's, again, so much attention is put on the filmmaker to have the filmmaker tell everyone, oh, look at me. Like, I made this and I'm in this film festival. You know, I am coming from a spot where, yes, I made this film, but I made it for everyone to see. You know, I made it for the people. I made it for, to change lives, to represent communities, to represent, you know, underrepresented people and give them the spotlight, not me. So
that's cool, man. Oh, I did want to talk about this. In your films, or the two of them that I've seen, you've had roles in both of them. Is acting something that you aspire to do, or is that just a product of needing a person to play a certain role and you're the guy?
Yeah, I'm not an actor. I don't consider myself an actor. I think it's fun to kind of be in the films. To be honest, I just needed a character, and those characters in the last two films, they're actually the same characters. I combined the two stories together. Yeah. So I did that, and I was like, you know what? Because at the end of that film we're talking about, A Black Crow Dilemma, Marco James, he, you know, for people who haven't seen it, it's about an individual whose girlfriend who's pregnant, she goes missing, and we kind of go on this journey with him to find her. But as the journey opens up, I know we start to question it. Did she really go missing? Did she run away, or, you know, do you have something to do with it? It's kind of dark thriller, mystery, film noir, if you will. But at the end of that film, we see that character run away from his problems, run away from the reality, and we don't really know what he does. So then, in Sister Diane, I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring that character back, and we kind of could see where we left off with him, you know, slightly. He doesn't have a huge role, but you can kind of see how his decision to leave and not face his fears and face his problems is translated into Sister Diane and the character he is in that. It's the same character, but the problems haven't gone away. That's kind of why I combined those two stories together.
I did notice that both characters were very similar, but I guess I didn't put two and two together that it was supposed to be the same.
Oh, Easter egg, if you will. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. Where does that character come from? Is that modeled after like you, or your, like, how you feel inside? Because when I see you, or Simon Redstone as a person, you are a very nice guy, very like very thoughtful person, but this character seems like the complete opposite almost. Where does that come from?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that just, when I think of him, I think, you know, that's that character. He is a dark, kind of evil, very lost person. I don't think it is like an alter ego of mine or anything. You know, I don't think it necessarily comes from a deep place within myself. It's just a character that I've created, and I think it just is easy for me to play that role because I wrote him, and I know that character back in my hand. And as you know, it's kind of fun to kind of be let loose and kind of like be the asshole. But but then it's time to, get back to reality. No, we don't want to be that guy, forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just knowing that character in and out really helped.
That's cool because yeah, when I see that, I'm like, wow, I would not want to run into Marco James on the street.
Yeah.
Oh man. What gets you excited about filmmaking? Because there's so much planning and detail and all this stuff that goes into it. And you're trying to do it your own way. You're not trying to do it to fit somebody's mold. So being successful doing it the way that you're trying to do it seems like even more difficult. So what's that spark in you that drives you to do this?
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, I think you can relate to as just a freelancer in general. Like, we are already going against the grain of society, kind of. Then compared to like normal 9 to 5 weekends, we don't really have that lifestyle. So that automatically goes against the grain. And now here I am in filmmaking, going against the grain again, trying to do it my way, and trying not to kind of follow the path right now, what everyone's trying to do, and follow these saturated storylines, and this noise and drama that is kind of like the up and coming independent filmmakers face. And right then and there, that's what I love about it. Like, I love going against the grain. I love kind of going against people and having them doubt and be like, oh, what is he doing? And because that, and I love like, dude, like to get to a point where you're filming on a set, from the financial aspect, from the logistical aspect, to the planning and the writing and script after script after script, draft after draft, it's a headache and you're just so stressed. But man, I love it. I love being in that environment. I love the challenges. I like when things are really hard and be able to overcome that. And you're not just doing it, you're doing that with a team that you've been able to lead and create, and all in the hopes that at the end of the day, this story is going to impact people and make their lives better, or have them, think a different way, or them leave us, leaving, being like, what, like inspired and whatever, they're impacted. That right there it's like the best feeling in the world. And the more and more I do it, the more, challenges you face, but it does get easier managing those stresses. And I think at the end of the day, it's making me, a better human, a better leader, a better friend, maybe one day, a better dad or a better husband, and everything else. That's why I love it, dude. I love just being in that environment.
What's the balance between, what am I trying to say? I don't even know. But like you talk about the stresses. Where does the stress come from? Is it the creative process, or is it more dealing with everything else?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's like a constant battle, story-wise, like coming up with the stories and what you want to tell. And it's extremely difficult to have a blank page and come up with a full-on story that's worth being told. And it could be years, getting to that point where you're ready to have a finished script. But I think ultimately, to get to that point of, creativity, it's like, for me personally, these characters and these storylines kind of just like form as time goes on, or they're inspired by a certain person. And I kind of use my imagination, use research, memory, facts, all as tools to create this world, and create story events that ultimately, are going to create conflict and provoke emotions, and event after event is going to build into, a sequence of events, and that sequence is going to do an act, and that act is going to go to, to a story climax, and that's going to be this, so these all build upon, and you just got to keep going and flush it out, and be, you have to criticize yourself when you write, you have to be like, okay, I wrote this scene, these characters, I wrote it, so I'm going to think naturally, oh, it's good, like I did it, you know. It's kind of like when you edit your first, video, the first edit, you're like, oh, that's amazing. And then you step away. You have to be able to kind of be like a third person when you come back to it and just tear it apart. And you have to have the ability to let go of yourself and let go of what you just made to make it better in the long run. So it's really about, at the end of the day, being disciplined, being committed to finishing what you start, and no matter what, having that mentality of, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to stop until it's on screen. And I think that's where a lot of people, they have the ambition to, not just filmmaking, we're talking about any creative project, they have the ambition, or even business, or whatever, in life in general. You can do whatever, they have the mindset, I'm going to do this, and they might start out, they face some obstacles, they face some opposition, it's not as easy as they think, or it's not what they thought, whatever the case may be, they stop. And it's okay, some things are not meant for a certain person to continue pursuing, but if you're committed, you will see it through. You will get to that finish line, no matter what. And you have to have that mindset.
Was there any point in time in your last project where you wanted to quit, or just hang it up?
Yeah, well, not quit, because I knew like I was gonna do it no matter what. Like I had that ambition to do it. But I will say, man, there were so many times where, and keep in mind, this was my first like real big independent film where, I raised money for this. I had people contributing. It was not like me. Like I had people's money on the line. I had all these actors, all these dancers, these locations that were extremely hard to get in the first place to that point. And they're all relying on me and my next action, my next, what we're going to do next, and get this thing rolling. So actually that's what helped me, because I didn't want to let them down.
You knew you couldn't fail,
yeah, there was a lot of pressure.
Couldn't let yourself fail because
because they're believing in me, and this is my first time doing it, so I have no reputation, I have no, nothing to back myself up on. So that's what I had to make it work. You know what I'm saying? If you're kind of put against the wall and your back's against the wall and you have no option but to make it work, you'll make it work. Or you won't, but then you'll learn and you do it again. So yeah, that is kind of when you have no options but to make it work is kind of almost the best thing for a person, but it's so tough, dude. And being able to mentally be composed and handle these stresses as they come and be able to work through them, kind of let your emotions not get the best of you, and stay present and disciplined to the end goal. It's hard. It's not easy,
I feel like a lot of people don't want to put themselves in those types of situations. They want to stay in the comfort zone, stay with what they know that they're able to do. So it's good to hear you, like, I know that feeling. In some ways I can relate to that feeling of like not wanting to let people down, but man, it's tough sometimes. Having to keep that like strong face, even though maybe on the inside you're just like ready to crumble. I don't know if you ever feel that way, but
and it's just like you were saying, like, a lot of people kind of, for better or worse, they kind of like being in their circle of comfort, and in their they don't want to have to face these things or these oppositions or these struggles, and that's okay. If someone would rather just keep doing what they're doing, I'm not here to point out, oh, you're not grinding, you're not
yeah, no, for sure,
you're not in the gutter suffering, like like
you're comfortable.
Yeah, you're comfortable. No, but I will say though, if you want to pursue something and get after it, and you have a mission and a goal in mind, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be enjoyable. Like, there is suffering. There is a lot of doubt. The self-doubt is always present, you know, in the back of someone's mind when they're pursuing an ambitious dream or goal. But that's part of it, you know. Without these fears, without these worries, life would be pretty boring. And, you know, so you have to have that ability to ignore those doubts, ignore those demons, and, you know, see it through. And I think one thing that's really helped me is not, at the end of the day, you know, this is a good example. Like, at the end of the day, you see success, you know, a person has their version of success. A lot of the time, it's circled around them. You know, success in a whole is very selfish, because it is only about you getting what you want and your end goal, right? And that end goal, usually that image and that picture circles around you, right? Where it's like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or oh, I want, you know, to own my own business and have everyone work for me, or I don't want to work a 9 to 5 and I want to have passive income. Whatever the case may be, it's circled around that person. But, you know, my end is not necessarily success, but it's more like this greatness to look back and have a group of individuals, you know, inspired and changed, and they are now making their own moves in their career, whether it be cinematography or acting or filmmaking, or just a person who you know, has graciously watched my film is now going about their life changed. And so it's not necessarily about me and my accolades. It's a lot more about a process of what storytelling can do for a community. And I want to be able to lead and, you know, contribute to that end goal.
Do you feel like, because I don't watch a lot of short films, is short films nowadays kind of like TikTok and social media, where it's just like trends that everybody keeps trying to do, or what's the landscape looking like?
You know, I think a lot of short films, I'm not saying all, like there's some really great filmmakers, up and coming filmmakers that do honestly probably a better job than I ever will be able to do in a short film. I think a lot of them are you know, are full of cliches and kind of like weak storylines. And dude, short stories are really hard to make, like, unique and original, because you only have 15 minutes. And that's one thing I struggle with short stories, is kind of being able to tell a story in that short amount of time. It's really hard to do. And I think, you know, people kind of just follow what's easy and this easy trends, and you just get a lot of saturation with short films. And it's one thing I'm trying to stay away from.
What about the aesthetic, for lack of a better word, like in Sister Diane, or even in the Black Crow Dilemma, you've gone with black and white for the majority of the film. What's the thought process behind doing something like that? Yeah,
well, there's a couple. One, I don't have a crazy amount of money to hire a colorist, and I don't have all these crazy like, you know, cameras and gear to make that image how I want. You know, I'm such a freak when it comes to like coloring, and when it comes to looks and focal lengths and, you know, lenses we use. And it's just, I really struggle with it a lot, especially like camera choices. Like, oh man, like, that's what keeps me up at night, is like my camera angles and how I want this image to look. So I did black and white because, one, I can control the lighting, I can control the look, you know, a lot more so than with color. And especially if we're, you know, doing an independent film on these random locations that we struggle to find, but we do. They're not all going to be like these nice color palettes that we can control, you know. The other reason why I really like black and white is because it puts more emphasis on the story. It's not, you know, you're not distracted by the colors, you're not distracted by just the sole image, because the image is, of course, you know, it's a movie, it's very important, but it's not the end all be all. You know, you can make Sister Diane with the iPhone if you really had no other choice. It's all about, you know, again, I keep saying this, I sound like a broken record, but it is the story. And if I can control that as much as possible, black and white. And I've had so many people be like, "Oh, you did black and white? Like, why would you ever do that?" Like, I had so many people when I was editing. I reached out to certain individuals. Hey, can you check out this draft of this edit I did for Sister Diane? Oh, you should do. Why would you do black and white? Like, blah blah. And like, because I wanted to, Yeah. No, and I kind of like that. People don't always have to agree with it, and I think they're gonna remember they saw a black and white film about Sister Diane than they would about a TikTok they saw yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why.
You mentioned like the classic stories, or like people getting away from the classic stories. So what I notice about like the aesthetic, for lack of a better word, of your films is very, even down to like the end credits, everything just looks very old school and classical. So I think that's a very interesting choice, because I don't know, I don't watch the most movies, but I feel like I don't see that very much. So even like the movie poster for Sister Diane, I thought was very, very nicely done.
Oh yeah, thank you, man. I think one thing I was trying to explain a little bit ago, but I kind of did bad choices. I think especially nowadays with upcoming filmmakers, you have so many different avenues to kind of base your work off or learn from. We have so many movies, we have so many TV shows, we have so many books and stories that you can kind of gain influence from. And I think I just resonate more so with Federico Fellini, Ingmar Bergman, like these classical filmmakers, Orson Welles, then of course like Martin Scorsese, and I can keep going on. But the point is, like, these classical, curated films, I've always kind of resonated more with, probably because I kind of grew up watching those types of films.
The life movies.
Yeah. And I think subconsciously it's kind of just translated to how I make films and my approach. And I'm not saying, to be, I have a kind of this new era of filmmakers and how they're doing everything brand new, and they're kind of going with the fast-paced attention grabbers that we kind of see in TikTok or Instagram, have that type of energy translated into films. I'm not saying that's bad. I think a good example would be Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if you saw that, but it's won a bunch of Oscars. But like, I think that's a good example of like kind of new era filmmakers that are doing everything really, really well, where they're kind of including that fast-paced, crazy reality jumps and Matrix and all that, but at the end they still having an impactful film. I'm not saying that's not awesome, because it is, but for me personally, I think I just have a different approach, a different style, and that's what art is really about. I can't say, you can't say, oh, my film's better than yours. That's subjective. Like, a painting is better than another painting. That's all subjective, like, to the person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want people to get the impression that you're talking down to other people's art or something like that, because everybody's making art. It's just the way that you're doing it is, you're doing it your way. Exactly.
Yeah, and I find resonance in that, and I find like pride in being able to look back one day and be like, you know what, I didn't conform, I did how I wanted to do it, and I created a team of individuals, and we made some really awesome stuff, and we just made some dope films. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and like I was kind of telling you with this podcast, like I'm just gonna do it my way.
Yeah.
It's it might not be everybody's target audience. I'm not trying to reach everybody all at once, but the people here's me, here's how I want to do it, and I hope you like it. I hope everybody likes it, but at the same time I know that not everybody's gonna like it, or not everybody's gonna find it interesting or care.
Yes.
But it's fulfilling me. I know it's fulfilling me, and I know the people that enjoy it will also get something out of it. So that's kind of like the basis of why I'm doing it.
Yeah. And I think, especially you're like, you're really just trying to hear people and hear what they say of all walks of life. You're not here to get the Instagram likes or get the hype, shout outs and all that, and the publicity, like you're doing, how you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I find that admirable and pretty awesome. But yeah, and actually speaking of like podcasts and individuals and community members, I know we were talking about in Sister Diane, Waterway.
Yes.
That podcast. That's another thing I really strive for, is including different communities into my projects. I think Waterway is a good example. They're a thrift store. They're a podcast. They're kind of like, they do a lot of music influence in the community. And I was like, you know what? That's I don't know, an organization, but that's a group of individuals, and Waterway as a whole. Like, I want part of my film. I want to show that off because they're doing really cool stuff in the community. And so, yeah, it was really cool to use film again, not just as a way of storytelling, but as a way to represent communities. I think that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the scene that you shot in Waterway was a super cool scene, and that's like, I don't know, people have to watch the film. I don't want to give away spoilers or whatever, but it was very like a perfect example of taking people from all walks of life and like coming together and helping each other, really is what happened in that particular scene.
Yeah.
So that was dope. Yeah, it's cool to see all the podcasts out there and everybody doing their thing and
that's what I'm talking about.
Building community. You started mentioning some of the filmmakers and people who have influenced you. I mentioned my top 5 segment. Did you end up coming up with your top 5 films? Do you have a top 5?
Yeah, okay, so this is the thing though. Like this, I said the first 4, like they can change anytime. I don't think my number 1, I think that is number one. But yeah, it might change, okay? So right. I don't want people being like, oh, it says 5, really didn't say this film? No. Like, I think these 5 these 5 I got you got your 5.
I got my top 5, and I'll just put it this way. I do not watch that many movies for whatever reason. That's just not my medium of choice to get my entertainment or my stories or whatever. So I do have my top 5, and I don't want to come off as disrespectful when I start saying my top 5.
Dude, I don't want to come off as like a film,
a movie snob.
No. Like these are just things I like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. All right, Simon Redstone. I'll let you do your number 5, and then I'll say my number 5. And if we have anything that we want to say in between,
you want me to like explain about them or just say the 5?
You can explain why it makes.
I mean, I don't
want to like this segment to get too lengthy or whatnot, but
number 5, we're going Moonlight, Barry Jenkins. I think it's a great example of the hero's journey, and I think it's just a good, solid film. Number 4.
Wait. I'll do my number 5 now.
Oh, okay.
Number 5, Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
It is. Dude, I'm going to go off, and like these are going to be like, I'm going to feel like a film snob or whatever.
No. Maybe I should let you do yours first. I don't know. Because mine aren't a joke because I'm being serious. These are like kind of my top 5.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going. Okay.
Number 4 for Simon Redstone's top 5 favorite films.
La Hang. It's Matthew Cassavetes. It's a French film.
La Hang.
Yeah, okay. It's a French film. The film always holds a special place in my heart. Without that film, I don't know if I would ever be a filmmaker. After seeing that, I was like, I know I want to be a filmmaker. Yeah.
Number 4 for me, Toy Story 1.
But Toy Story 2, then 1.
2, then 1.
Okay.
I like the original better because you can't have
the original's fire, dude.
The original's fire, and so is the third one. Is really good. Third one might actually be better, but I was like an adult when it came out, so I don't know,
dude. Sid in I remember it gave me nightmares.
You scary
dude, a freak.
I wonder what he like grew up to be. I think he grew up in the movies. I don't remember, but yeah. So the Toy Story movies just really I just thought they were awesome as a kid. Like I wanted those toys. It's a great story about like two people from completely different walks of life coming together to figure stuff out. So
it is a great story.
All right, your number 3.
8.5. It's Federico Fellini. It's an old classic film. It's a masterpiece, a master filmmaker.
What's it about?
Oh, 8.5. It's about, and the story is about a filmmaker. The character's a filmmaker, and he's preparing to do this audacious film, and he's having all this pressure from all these individuals, like from producers, from actors, from critics, and religious and political influences and pressures. So as he's preparing on this film, we kind of see him transverse through all these obstacles. At the same point in time, we see like these internal struggles that this character faces, and we are brought back in time. And at first we don't really make sense, blah, 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 but everything comes together, and it's just, the cinematography also just, it's literally a masterpiece. Yeah.
Nice. So kind of the part of the reason that I wanted to do this list was because I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
And what films you might like. So I'm probably gonna go back and watch some of these. I think that would be good for me. My number 3 is Purple Rain.
Okay.
I really like Purple Rain a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I wasn't much of a Prince fan until he passed away, and then I get this thing where like a life event happens or something major happens, and I just really want to learn more about it. So Purple Rain I thought was dope. I feel like you don't see a ton of movies that are based in Minnesota, so it's really cool to see the scenes with First Ave and see Prince,
the lakes,
the lake, see Prince when he was like that movie is kind of seemed like what broke him as like a big star,
dude.
Plus the soundtrack is incredible.
So I don't know if you worked with him yet. Clayton Hughes, he's an audio guy in Brock and in TV. Shout out to IATSE 745. No, but he worked with Prince when he was up and coming. He was a huge when he was at First Ave, like just starting out. Clayton was a really good friend and worked with, he knew Prince his whole life. And Clay and I, we just all the time at work is talk about Prince, and it's so cool to hear Clayton's stories and hear what he did. I'm like, just in awe that he was able to do all this crazy life he had with Prince in the music world in that time. So pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was my number 3. All right. Simon's number 2 favorite film.
The Shining, Stanley Kubrick.
Okay, I've actually seen that one.
Yeah. Dude, that film, like, it makes you feel a certain way, like after watching that, it's all eerie, and the way he uses, the space and the characters and the idea of solitude and how that can wake up some monsters in some people, and it's crazy. It's a crazy film. So.
My number 2 is The Sandlot.
Dude, these are good films that you're saying. I was not even thinking about.
Well, you know what I mean? They're like
kind
of. Well, Purple Rain's not a kid's film, but these are just like good. I mean,
they're
are good.
Solid films. Everything's solid choices.
Okay. Yeah. Just it's just maybe my palate is not as refined as some people's palates, but yeah, no, Sandlot's a good one. Sandlot's a classic. I've probably seen that more than any other movie in my life. It's so rewatchable. It's a very nostalgic film. Just takes you back to like your childhood. Even if that movie was set, I don't know what year that movie was set in, like 60s or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's an older time period, but you can still relate to like your own childhood stories, like playing in the backyard and all that stuff. So Sandlot is my number 2. All right, this is the
Yep.
This is the big moment. Simon Redstone's number 1 favorite film.
Okay. I don't think this will ever change. It might, but dude, this film is like by far my favorite. I can never get bored of it. There Will Be Blood.
Okay.
It's filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson. He's the filmmaker. Dude, I'm telling you right now, tonight, you go, I think it's I don't know, on Netflix, HBO, or something. I don't know. You find a way to watch it. You find a way to watch
it on
it.
Amazon or something.
Whatever. Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. It's my favorite movie and my favorite filmmaker. There Will Be Blood. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. And I will.
It's about an oil man, a crazy, money-hungry oil man. It's good.
All right, I'm going to check that one out. All right, so my number one is, and this has been since I was a kid, Napoleon Dynamite.
Dude, yes. I love it.
From a independent film perspective, the budget on that one was like pretty freaking low.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a masterpiece. It's so like, it's making us, I don't even know. It's like making a story out of nothing almost.
No, that's like a great example of like what I would want, like aspire to do one day. Like have an independent film be able to do what that did and gain the success it did, because it's a good story, you know. And Jared Hess, that's the director. He's just super funny. The characters are so original, and the story has never been seen before, never been told before. That's where I'm at. That's where it's at for sure.
Okay, so I shouldn't have been as self-conscious about my
no,
list.
dude. You're honestly probably better than mine. Like these
hell no.
Yeah.
No. All right, what else do we want to get into? How you feel lately? You're finished with this film. What's going on in your life? What's been weighing on your mind these days?
Yeah, dude. So, like when I'm not working, like, you know, broadcast, I don't, you know, say I don't work for 3 days, you know, I kind of talked to us before we started. Like I treat those days that I'm not working to literally get better at my craft and filmmaking. Like I'll treat it like a job. So I'll wake up. I'm not sleeping in. I immediately have like, you know, a plan. Like so many books I'm reading right now. I've already read like 4 this year, and storytelling and filmmaking and different aspect and cinematography, whatever the case may be. I'm here, like I'm taking notes, son. Like, you know, like I was telling you, like these flashcards, like I'm doing these terms, like these advanced terms, and like, it takes me a little bit longer to get through a book because I'm literally annotating and writing and taking notes. But yeah, like I'm treating the time I don't have to work, like that's such an opportunity to get better. And I think a lot of people, you know, keep that in mind. Like, you know, you're not going to get better unless you put in the reps and the time to get better. It's not going to happen. Nothing's just going to happen. And to identify areas that you need to grow and have the ability, you know, that I've been able to do, where, you know, I treat the days where I'm not working to get better at my craft. Like that's so rare. And that's something you can't like oversee. Like, you know, I might not be working for a couple of days or a week, whatever the case may be, but the amount of like growth that I'm learning in my craft and what I want to do, you know, in filmmaking, like it just, you can't even put a price tag on it, you know?
Let's go back to the Red Cow production. You kind of talked a little bit about your mission statement, or maybe what was that again?
Well, like, you know, more or less where empathy and reason leads to purpose and change. And, you know, it's original, badass, you know, independent films. It's kind of like my image, you know, and, you know, more or less what we do is we don't cut corners. We're you know, we're raw, we're true to ourselves, we're true to our image, we're true to, you know, the films we make, and we stand behind them, and no matter what, we'll get them done. And you know, the whole idea is so they have to be original. They have to be original. They have to have a new look, or a look that's true to, you know, a Red Cow production. And like the people that are on board with this production company, you know, again, they're all original to themselves. They all, you know, believe in the stories we create, and each one that I'm able to work on, bring along, like they, no matter what, are so dedicated to finishing it. They're dogs, you know, they are. And a Red Cow production is like, you know, they're full of dogs, and just the mentality of, you know, we're going to get it done, and it's going to be unique, It's going to be different.
I love it, man. Is that kind of your goal, is to stick with that and keep trying to make films, or what do you see yourself doing?
I see, like, we're looking long term here. Like, I think, and I was kind of talking about before, like this whole idea of conformity, but you don't, for anyone who's like, oh, I have to be in LA or I have to be in New York to make movies or to be a filmmaker, like that is so far from the truth. Like 30 years ago, yeah, Hollywood probably been a way to go. And I'm not saying to be in Hollywood or to be in New York is bad. That's not true. But I'm saying, like, you don't have to be there. Dude, I'm telling you right now, when I was in LA for some film festivals I was in, it's so much selling, like, and look at me mentality. It's just like, it's overwhelmed, it's saturated. It honestly, I think it almost like brings your creativity down because dude, if you're in an environment where everyone wants the same thing, everyone can do A, B, C, D, and like, oh, hire me, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Dude, it's just gonna be, you're gonna have so many mentalities in there, so many egos, so many like look at me's, if you will, that it really does, I think, bring down your creativity and it commercializes it. I'm not here to commercialize anything. I'm not here to make one expensive highlight reel, Yeah. So you don't need to be in USC, University of Spoiled Children, as some people call it, or like you don't need to be in NYU, with your leather jacket and thrifted clothes to make you look urban.
Yeah.
You don't need these fancy schools. You don't need these locations that where movies are made. Like, you can make movies wherever you are. You can create a team. You can make communities, make a presence, and bring people up with you. It's not a solo thing. But for a Red Cow production, that's kind of like the mentality. We're here to create a team, create a community of like-minded individuals who make badass movies. But with that being said, I'm not married to, only doing independent films. But I find, a sense of right now where I am, like, I know I want to do my due diligence to the Twin Cities. This ain't my home per se. I'm not from here, but I moved here, in such a formative developmental stage of life. Like, I was 15, I'm 23 now. Like, this place had a huge impact on me and who I am today. And I really want to represent, the filmmaking in the Twin Cities and, create some serious momentum before I move on. Yeah.
I just don't like, I don't want you to be like, you're a good guy, so I don't want you to be like, burn yourself out, like trying to, do you feel like you're gonna burn yourself out, like trying to prove a point of,
yeah, dude,
I'm non-conformist, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you think you're just gonna run your, I'm not trying to like foreshadow or anything like that.
No. I do, dude, I do. I think it's like one of those things where, like, you have to stand behind, your vision, your goal, who you are. And I think it's a little bit easier for me to do because I grew up moving so much and because I've been able to see, these different groups of people and how society works, depending on where you are. And as you keep doing that, you kind of gain a sense of who you are from early on. I think it's easier for me to kind of be a little bit more like harsh and, critic of, I'm this and I'm going to do this and no one's going to tell me to do anything else. I can see how that can come off, but I think it comes from a place of passion and determination. And I'm not saying, I don't want to work with, I'm not saying, I don't want to work with filmmakers. I don't want to work with other cast and crew members. That's not the case. I'm just saying I think it's important to really stay true to who you are, and not be deterred by pressures to get attention or pressures to have a overnight success. I think it's more important to really get the fundamentals and learn and keep learning, even when you have a really successful project or whatever, like, you're never not learning to be a storyteller. I think just, you and I, as being in the work environment we are, we kind of learn right away that, things don't happen overnight, and success is not necessarily a linear trajectory by any means. And just being in, an entertainment industry for full time, no matter what, you kind of get that sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is something just a thought that came into my mind. Do you see your work as more of art or entertainment, or is it somewhere in the middle? Because I'm trying to think, like, you're talking about you go to LA and everything is selling.
Yeah.
And it just feels like sometimes it feels like we aren't consuming art anymore. We're consuming something that was designed to make money instead of.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, like, it is a business, right? Like filmmaking and movies and cinema, it's a business, and it is meant to, be an investment for these production companies. Like, I'm putting in $1 million, I want $4 or $5 million back. But it's like one of those, like, it's so tough, dude, because I don't consider myself as like an art project or art house filmmaker. I'm not doing it just for the art. I'm not doing it as like expression. I'm not doing it to make Transformers, or Avengers. When I think some of my favorite filmmakers, no matter what, it's always original, exciting films that, grab the attention, hold the attention, and reward, the audience for their attention. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be Simon Redstone, make Simon Redstone films, and create, just want to make awesome movies. And I'm not really worried about being a blockbuster commercial hit, or I'm not really, so by the same point in time, I'm not trying to be just an art, I'm not just doing it just to do it. Like, I'm doing it with a purpose behind it, So I guess in the middle, but it's hard, dude. It's really hard. And that's a huge challenge. Like, we're in a whole different age of filmmaking, we see a lot of like, limited series now. Like, it's not just 2-hour movies anymore, Last of Us or Euphoria, whatever the case may be. Like, TV is huge, right? And I'm not saying I would ever do TV. I'm not saying that at all. But right now, I know I just have to keep getting better, and keep growing, keep creating communities, and yeah.
It's cool, man. I'm glad. It's good to see somebody with kind of that outlook, or like you seem to know what direction you want to go and not want to budge from that, or you're open to everything, but you at the core you kind of know.
Yeah, stay true to yourself. I think that's important for people. No matter what, you gotta stay true to yourself. And people, that's okay. Not everyone was gonna like my films. Not everyone's gonna like me, and that's okay. Like, that's just reality of anyone in any life. But I think it's so important for people to always stay true to who you are. And it's really hard nowadays. You're gonna feel that real. You're gonna feel when you're staying true to yourself, no matter what. People don't like that in general. Like, it makes people jealous, it makes people envious, it makes people not necessarily like that individual sometimes. It's not easy being true to who you are and be yourself. And if at the end of the day, if my films can help people be true to themselves, and remind people that you are who you are and you're beautiful that way, that's what I'm talking about. And I really find joy in giving people that are not, or who are looked down upon in society, or kind of like overpassed. Like, I want them to be the highlight, them to be the center stage.
I love what you said about, if you are true to yourself, people might not like you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, like, real quickly, like, I think people understand is, like, when you're pursuing a goal or a dream, or you're going against the norm, it's a lonely place. It doesn't feel safe. It's very lonely sometimes, because, like, you're the one who's doing it. And people will be like, oh yeah, of course it's gonna be longer, but like, you don't, like, you're left when you're in that situation, or in this place of like going who you are and going for whatever it may be. Like, I don't think people understand, like, you're not only like alone, but like you're left with like your decisions, you know, and the only way to do that is you like keep climbing that mountain. But like, man, dude, like it can be very difficult. And if you don't have the right mindset, or, you know, you can get off the rails, you know. And I think that happens to a lot of people. We see people a lot of the time go off the rails and kind of not do what, you know, they set out to do. I think a lot of it comes down to that. You know, at the end of the day, it's just you in the mirror. And that's probably, you know, a lot of times it's the first time in anyone's life where it's just you and you only in that mirror. And now you have to do this crazy thing that no one else is doing.
Dude, how do you keep your mind in a good frame of mind? Like lately I've just been feeling super anxious and like nervous about a lot of stuff. Like, am I doing this right? And I like lately I've just been trying to work on because if you let your mind just wander like that, it can go down a very bad place. Like
especially when you don't have that structure, like that normal like identity through work. You know, people. Oh, you know, I'm a salesperson, whatever. You know, I'm, you know, whatever your career is, because we now, for, you know, you're not necessarily, you're tied to what you're trying to do, right? So absolutely, like I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm never anxious or I'm never stressed. No, dude, like it's very much an anxious, stress place, and people don't understand that. But you know, for me, it's just, again, having that why, you know, having that why and that mission. You know, why are you doing this, or why are you, you know, pursuing this? And to stay true to that and find that as your, like, for me at least, to find that as my my target, you know. And I think also like really taking care of physically, like, you know, people say, oh, you work out a lot, like it's just because you want to look good. Like, dude, like it's nothing about like me having a six-pack abs. No, dude, it's like an escape from this constant stress and anxiety of like just me having to do this, you know, and make it work. And that, what happens if it doesn't work? Or like, you know, like, oh, like 10, 15 years from now, like you might have made a huge mistake when everyone is getting this constant salary, and here you are like living gig to gig. But like if you're deterred by those factors, which are real, you know, I'm not gonna say, oh, you don't want bad enough or anything like that. That's not the case. But you have to understand, like, this comes with the price of following your dreams or following your passions. Like, that's why no one really does it.
It's true.
You know,
we talked about it. Like, people your age are making TikToks. They're not making films.
Yeah. And I think going back to talking about, you know, anxiety and stress is like, especially when we might not be working as much, or, you know, we're trying to do a project and you kind of feeling very alone. I think, again, circling back to your why, circling back to your mission, but also like remind yourself like how much progress has been made. You know, think about where I was just a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Dude, like I don't think I never would imagine sitting here talking to you. I think people kind of get lost in this today and the present and like the future. But dude, sometimes look back and be like, you know what? Like, if I never, you know, if I just got a normal job outside of college, I'd never be here today. And at the end of the day, even if I do fail and I don't, you know, quote unquote, make it in people's eyes, at least I tried, you know. And that is more admirable than ever, you know, doing something that, you know, having that regret. You know what I'm saying? Like, that regret at the end of the day, man, you ever drive past like a cemetery and be like, man, look at all those people, man. Imagine how much regret is in that ground, you know?
I never thought of it that way.
Like, all those people, like, you know, at the end of the day, if they could be up right now, all that regret, you know, all that, man, I wish. I don't know, I'm not trying to ever have a, man, I wish.
Yeah.
So.
I feel it.
You know, things aren't easy, but, you know, it's the price to pay. You know, you might be stressed, you might, you know, have anxiety about the future. That's okay, you know. That's part of it. But to look back 20 years from now and be like, you know what? I did it. and I did it because I stayed true to myself and I did it my way. Nothing could ever beat that.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, I mean, kind of the same deal with this podcast. Like, I always wanted to do it, but it's like, you can't just sit and just think about it forever. That's going to eat away at you forever. Eventually, you just gotta, even if it sucks, like, I knew, like, my first how many episodes were going to suck, and they probably still suck. So thank you for being one of the people that
I'm so grateful to be here.
Hop on board.
Oh, no, not at all. Dude, and I think, like you just said, like, man, I've always wanted to, you know, do whatever, maybe. People need to understand, like, it's you know, like, you're going to be the one who does it. And it's so hard for, you know, depending on what it is for anyone, but at the end of the day, you have to do it, you know, and you have to be able to face those fears and that change and that resistance. You know, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. That's my college coach used to always say. And I'm so, like, again, I've had a lot of mentors and people who've shaped me and opportunities that have shaped me into who I am. But a lot of struggle and challenges have come that way my whole life. It's not been easy, but again, like, the more you're able to challenge yourself and push yourself, I know it's so hard for, you know, whatever case may be for people, and you don't know what they're going through, everything else, but I'm telling you, it will pay off, you know?
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to talk about or add before we wrap up? Anything you want to plug? Is there any way people can see your film if they want to see it?
Yeah, so me and just on simonredstone.com, that's, you know, my website for filmmaking, but on Instagram, you know, just Simon Redstone. You can get one of these cool shirts, you know.
Are they for sale on your
Yeah, on the website they have a little link. But no, but in all seriousness, no, like, I guess, you know, just thanking to my friends and family, you know, for this end support. Thanking to my TV crew who I work with constantly, like, you know, without them and their support and, you know, believing in what I can do, and they're just great, awesome workers, and I'm so grateful to be constantly surrounded by hardworking, dedicated individuals on a daily basis, you know, and I've been able to kind of separate myself from a lot of distractions and a lot of, like, personal and emotional, like oppositions, if you will, you know, to really be able to have this great group of people I'm constantly around is great. So
awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today. I'm glad we got this episode out. Glad we were able to connect. It's always good to hear from you, hear your perspective. I'm excited to see what the future holds from you. I know you're just getting started. You're the up and coming filmmaker, man.
Yes, sir.
So it's gonna be a real treat to watch you continue to learn and grow. Wish you all the best of luck. And thank you so much for coming and being on the show. And you're only the third guest. This is the 10th episode. So it's nice to sit down, catch up, and have a chat.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. And I'm a lifelong fan of this podcast.
Hell yeah.
So all to the future.
Hell yeah, man. All right, everybody. That's been the Erin Marvin Show, episode 10 with Simon Redstone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.